study 4 different methods for goodwill. That we are going to study 4 different methods of goodwill. One is average profits method, that we have already done. Then 3 more are there: super profits, capitalization of profits, and annuity method, right? Now I told you in the very first lecture that the goodwill's valuation depends on 2 factors. One is profits of the company, and we studied how to find the average future maintainable profits. That will be affecting all the 4 methods. And one more factor affects the goodwill. What is that? Investment. So investment means capital employed. Okay. Now we will understand today how to find the capital employed, and that will not be required in the first method. Average profit method uses only average future maintainable profit, and other 3 methods we will require average future maintainable profits also and capital employed also. So remember it this way: if average profits method is asked in exams, means only one working is required, that is average future maintainable profits. And if any other method is asked, then 2 workings are required: average future maintainable profits and capital employed. Okay, so today we understand how to find capital employed. Give the heading capital employed in the note. Okay, today we understand how to find capital employed. Now put your pencil down and understand the concept completely first. See, if I talk about the balance sheet first of all. See, in the balance sheet, now we take up the new format what we have studied, so that from that point of view understand it. So we studied shareholders funds, that includes share capital and reserves and surplus, non-current liabilities, current liabilities, and in assets, non-current assets and current assets. Now can you tell me what is the investment of owners in this? What is the investment of owners in this? Owners, who are the owners of the company? Shareholders. So what is the investment of owners in the company? Share capital also, reserves and surplus also. Because reserves and surplus means you don't give the dividend to the shareholders and retain the profits in the company. So who has the ownership of those reserves? Who has the claim on those reserves of the company? Shareholders. Okay, reserves means the profits of the company which always belong to whom? Shareholders. Did you understand this portion? This is the main investment of owners in the company. Okay. Plus, they have to bear any losses like discount on issue of debentures, underwriting commission, preliminary expenses. All these losses have to be borne by whom? Shareholders. Where do these items appear in the balance sheet? Debentures discount, underwriting commission, preliminary expenses, registration expenses. Where do they appear in the balance sheet? Other non-current assets which we never had up till now. You always used to have it then. That's why you don't remember. But where do these items appear? Other non-current assets. These are the losses which the shareholders have to bear. In short, we can say what is capital employed. If you do it by direct method, it would be equal to share capital plus reserves and surplus minus other non-current assets. That will include fictitious assets. Okay, write it later on. Just understand the methods first. Okay, there is direct method of doing it. What is this direct method of doing the same? Share capital. It will include equity share capital as well as preference share capital. But when we find goodwill for the valuation of shares, then valuation of shares we always do from equity shareholders point of view. In that situation, we include only equity share capital. Okay, plus reserves and surplus and minus other non-current assets. What will this other non-current assets include? Discount on issue of debentures, underwriting commission, etc. Just 2 examples I am writing so that you understand it. What are these items? But these are considered to be fictitious assets that we have to minus. What you get is capital employed. Any doubts in this? Okay. Now, in this method there is a problem. What is the problem? If the value of assets and liabilities have changed, then again, if there is any profit, who is going to get the claim of that? Shareholders. If there is any loss, who has to bear that? Shareholders. So suppose in assets there is land and building worth rupees 1 crore, which has become 1 crore 50 lakhs. Then that 50 lakhs increase in the value of land and building, the valuation profit. Who has to get that profit? Shareholders. That should also be included in capital employed. Because they invested 1 crore, which has now become 1 crore 50 lakhs. So right now their capital's value is not 1 crore, it is 1 crore 50 lakhs. So here what is the problem? Each and every assets and liabilities increase and decrease, we have to add and subtract separately. If it is a profit for the shareholders, you would add it. If it is a loss for the shareholders, you would add it. And what you have to do is, each and every asset and liability, we will compare it with its today's value and find out what is the profit or loss on that. That becomes very time consuming, because beyond this, each and every asset and liabilities addition and subtraction is to be done. So instead of direct method, we follow indirect method. Now what is this indirect method? Suppose I put figures over here. Okay. Let us say share capital is 10, reserves and surplus is 5 total, 15 non-current liabilities 10, current liabilities 2 total is 27. Let us say non-current assets in total are 15, in which other non-current assets are 4. Means 4 plus 11. Okay. And current assets, let us say, are remaining of 12 total. Understand? Now presently if you count, suppose we assume there is no change, practically impossible, but no change in the value of assets and liabilities. Then what is the capital employed? 10 plus 5? 15. Okay, 10 plus 5? 15. Minus how much? 4. Other non-current assets are 4. They have to bear these losses. So 15 minus 4? 11. Now because of dual aspect concept, balance sheet always stands. Even if I do except these three items, even if I do assets minus liabilities, will I get the same answer or not? Like 11 plus 12? 11 plus 12? 23. 23 minus 12. Do you get the same answer or not? That is indirect method. Because from assets, if you subtract external liabilities, then what will remain? Capital. From assets, if you subtract the external liabilities, then what will remain? Capital. But in assets will not include other non-current assets. That is, whatever is included in direct method will not include in indirect method. And when you subtract external liabilities, then you include purely external liabilities, non-current and current. You will not include shareholders' funds. Is everyone clear with this? So, what is the indirect method of getting the same answer of 11? Assets, but you can say fair value of assets. Fair value of assets means if land is not, instead of 1 crore, its value is 1 crore 50 lakhs, then by calculating the capital employed will not take 1 crore, will take 1 crore 50 lakhs. So fair value of assets, but except other non-current assets, they will not be included, because they are included in direct method. Okay, so all fair value of assets except non-current assets minus fair value of which liabilities? External liabilities minus fair value of external liabilities, and again what would you get? Capital employed. Now why this method is better? As I said, if you consider the first method, then each and every assets and liabilities, profit and loss, profit we have to add and loss we have to subtract separately. In the second method, it becomes convenient that you don't have to identify is it profit or loss. Directly take the fair value of assets and fair value of liabilities. Automatically that profit and loss will be taken into consideration and you take capital employed. So we will be always following indirect. Why I have explained you the two methods is just so that you understand the concept. Actually, what is the capital of the owners? This one. But because there is change in the value of assets and liabilities, instead of doing it directly, we do it indirectly, which gives us the same answer. That is assets minus. So in all the questions, we will be following this method for finding the. Anyone having any doubts in this? All up to this? Right, not really. One more thing you can specifically mention, that fair value of trade assets. You understand this trade assets concept I discussed? Trade and non-trade. Trade assets means the assets which are invested in business activities, and non-trade means outside business activities. What is the best example of non-trade asset? Non-trade asset, you are talking about income. Non-trade asset, best example, investments. Investments never get into the business activity. You invest in shares, debentures, government securities. Investments are generally non-trade. Investments will not be included. And here you would minus non-trade assets, because they are not invested in business. So whatever are the non-trade assets, here you would minus them. Did you understand this portion, everyone? So when we do it by the second method, then only trade assets will be included, non-trade assets will not be included. Now, see here, we are going to compare the capital employed with the profits of the company. Profits is a flow concept. When do you earn the profits? Do you earn it on a particular date, 31st March? When do you earn the profits? From 1st April to 31st March. You earn it between the years. So I call it as which concept? Flow concept. It is flowing during the year. But capital you are finding on 31st March. You take these figures from the balance sheet. So capital employed, what you will get from this will be as on which date? 31st March, end of the year. Right? Now you are going to compare capital of 31st March, which is a static concept, one day, one point of time, with the profit between April to March, which is annual. To make it comparable, both should be during the year. So how do you make this concept of capital employed, which is a static concept at one point of time, as a flow concept during the year? Through average capital. Average capital employed will represent, on an average, how much capital is remaining from 1st April to 31st March. Now how to find this average capital employed? Three ways of doing it. One is simple average, opening plus closing divide by 2. Opening capital employed means capital employed of last year's balance sheet. Closing capital employed means capital employed from current year's balance sheet divided by 2. Second, what could be the difference between the opening and closing capital? Profits during the year. If no more investment is done, then what could be the difference between opening and closing capital? Profits during the year. Now average means half of it. So whatever are the profits during the year, you add half of it in the opening capital employed. You'll get average capital employed, or you go reverse. From closing capital employed, you minus half of the profits. Then also you'll get average capital employed. Okay. For example, suppose opening capital employed on 1st April 2016 is, let us say, 10 lakhs. Profit during the year is 4 lakhs. Then what will be the closing capital employed on 31st March 2017? 14 lakhs. Now there are three ways of finding the average capital employed. One is simple, 10 plus 14, 24 divided by 2, 12 lakhs. Means on an average, how much capital has remained during the year? 12 lakhs. Second way is, in 10 lakhs you add half of 4. What is half of 4? 2, 10 plus 2, 12 lakhs. Or third way is, from 14 you subtract half of 4. What is 14 minus half of 4? 14 minus 2, 12 lakhs. So three different ways of finding the capital employed. Opening plus closing divided by 2, or opening plus half of the profits of current year, or closing minus half of the profits of current year. Did everyone understand this? So write down. First method is opening capital employed plus closing capital employed. Second is opening capital employed plus half of adjusted profit after tax of current year. See this language carefully, okay? Whenever we'll have to do it. Adjusted profit after tax means, you remember we do adjustments. Very first step we do in average future maintainable profits. Those adjustments are to be done. After doing the adjustments, whatever is the profit after tax, that will be taken into consideration, and then we'll do half of the same. And we'll take only current year's profit. Don't take average of all the years, because we are finding current year's capital employed. And third method is closing capital employed minus half of adjusted profit after tax of current year. Did you understand this question? Now, we will always be using the third method, majority times. Reason, if in the question we have to use the first two methods, then in the question they have to give you two balance sheets. They have to give you current year's balance sheet as well as they have to give you last year's balance sheet to find opening capital employed, which generally will not happen. They'll give you only current year's balance sheet. So assume if opening capital employed is not available, then what is the only way to find the average capital employed? Closing capital employed minus half of adjusted profit after tax of current year. Did you give enough to understand this? Okay. Now listen carefully. Normally whenever we find goodwill, we should always use average capital employed in finding the goodwill, if nothing is mentioned in the question. However, majority examples of college, in fact in goodwill all examples of college, they have always mentioned use closing capital employed. They have always mentioned it. But if nothing is mentioned, we should always use average. It is only one example of valuation of shares, where for finding the valuation of shares we have to find the value of goodwill, and where nothing is mentioned, use closing or opening. So in that example only, in the whole chapter, two chapters, we are going to find average capital. Otherwise, majority examples we are going to find closing capital. But in college exams, how will you distinguish? Should we find goodwill on the basis of closing capital employed or average capital employed? If nothing is mentioned, average capital employed. But 99.99% they'll always mention use closing capital employed, because this is very complex and complicated. So in majority cases at BCom level, always mention use closing capital. In extreme situation, nothing is mentioned, then only averages to be used. So write down that as a note. Okay, two notes I made. First of all, keep it in mind, when you find goodwill, this capital employed, then in assets, don't include goodwill also, because goodwill is what we are finding. So in valuation of goodwill, goodwill itself will not be taken into consideration. Other than that, we have mentioned, we have to take fair value of, we have to take only trade assets, and also we don't have to take non-current assets. Okay, so goodwill further is not to be, write down this note, man. In calculation of capital employed, goodwill will not be considered. Okay, understand this, because we are finding the value of goodwill itself. So goodwill itself will not be taken into consideration. In calculation of capital employed, goodwill will not be considered. And second one, if nothing is mentioned, then goodwill should always be valued. Then goodwill should always be valued on the basis of average capital employed. Understand this? All of you? So, look at question number 1. First we understand this capital employed calculation, then we take up the formulas of remaining methods of goodwill. Where now in every method two workings will have to make. One is average future maintainable profits and second is capital employed. So page number 55, question number 1. Did you take out? Page number 55, question number 1. Let's understand that first. The balance sheet of MD Manufacturing Company Limited discloses the financial position as on 31/3/2010. Now we put tick. We put tick on which items? As per indirect method, what we have to take in consideration in finding capital. From liabilities side, we have to take only external liabilities. Now you can see in these questions, horizontal balance sheets are given. Old format. Because until last year, this is how it was done in college. Now this year, until now, pamphlets are not received. So most probably you must be having the new format. Means instead of horizontal, it may be given in vertical format. But you must be able to identify which liabilities are to be included and which assets are to be included. Presentation will change, content will remain. So from liabilities side, will we include equity share capital in the indirect method? Will we include?
No, sir.
No. Will we include capital reserve in the indirect method?
No, sir.
No. We include that in the direct method. Okay. Will we include sundry creditors in the indirect method? Yes, that is an external liability. Put tick on that. Will we include provision for taxation in external liabilities? Yes, put tick on that. Will we include profit and loss account in that? What is profit and loss account? Where does it come in the new formats? Reserves and surplus. That is not to be included in indirect. Able to understand this? Will we include goodwill? No. Will we include land and building? Yes, there is a trade asset. Put tick on that. Will we include plant and machinery? There is a trade asset. Put tick on that. Will we include stock? Stock is a trade asset. Stock means it is a business activity asset only. Put tick on that. Book debts means debtors. Put tick on that. Cash at bank. Put tick on that. All these are trade assets of business. Generally, what is not trade? Investments. Otherwise, all are trade. Property can be non-trade if it is mentioned. That is, you are not using it for business purpose, but you have given it on trade. Then it is a non-trade. Otherwise, all assets are trade assets. Calculate average capital employed. Now see, they have given current years. Adjusted profit after taxes, 55,000. So this third method we'll have to use. Because from balance sheet, what will we get? Closing capital employed. From that, we will subtract half of 55,000. Second, calculate average capital employed considering closing. Means closing itself is to be taken as average. That we will be doing in majority examples because it will be mentioned take closing capital employed. And third, calculate average capital employed if opening capital employed is 3 lakhs. So here we will use the first one. Any confusions in this? First, let us find the closing capital employed from the balance sheet. So, let out fair value of trade assets. Okay, fair value of trade assets. Yes, which ones are those? Land and building assets, trade assets. Land and building 1,75,000. Plant and machinery 90,000. Stock 1,15,000. Book debts 90,000. Sorry, 95,000. Cash at bank 7,000. Yes, how much does that come to?
4,82,000.
4,82,000 minus fair value of external liabilities. That includes sundry creditors 71,000, provision for tax 55,000. Take it in inner column so that total we can directly get in outer column. So 1,26,000.
Yes.
482 minus 126.
356.
3,56,000. That is closing capital employed. Any confusions in this? All are clear up till here? Now see, first we have to find average capital employed taking current year's adjusted profit after tax as 55,000. So which formula we are going to use? Third one. In the first situation, write down average capital employed is equal to closing capital employed minus half of adjusted profit after tax of current year. So, what is closing capital employed we obtained? 3,56,000
Minus 27,500.
minus half of, we have to minus 55,000. So 3,56,000 minus 27,500.
328,500.
3,28,500 is average capital employed. Any doubt in this? All are clear with it? Then second, we have to find average capital employed considering closing capital employed. So we directly write average capital employed will be directly equal to 3,56,000. In the second situation, average capital employed with the closing capital employed itself means 3,56,000. Understood this? Then opening capital employed is given. So now we will use which formula in the third situation? First formula. Average capital employed will be equal to opening capital employed plus closing capital employed divided by 2. Opening capital employed is given as 3 lakhs plus closing capital employed we obtained 3,56,000 divided by 2. So 3,28,000. So concept of capital employed is clear to all of you. Any doubts on this? Now we take up with the methods, remaining methods of goodwill valuation. So first we take up with super profits method. Second method of goodwill. Now remember, in all the methods, we are going to find two workings. What two workings we are going to find in all the methods? Average, future maintainable profits and capital employed. Okay, all the three formulas I discussed now. So how to find goodwill on the basis of super profits, better understand this. But two workings will come in. First average future maintainable profits, then capital employed, then we'll apply the steps of super profits. What is the meaning of super profits? Suppose Arpan is running a cake and confectionery shop, pastries, chocolates, cakes, etc. He has invested 5 lakh rupees and he is able to earn profit of 1 lakh per year. Now assume that we all are also running cake and confectionery shop, but with different investments. Everyone will have different investments. Here he has invested 5 lakhs and he is able to earn 1 lakh. Snehil is able to earn 2 lakhs. How much?
2 lakhs.
But he has invested 20 lakhs. Okay? Agam is able to earn 5 lakhs. But he has invested 1 crore. I am able to earn 3 lakhs. I have invested only 4 lakhs. That way, if we do average of Snail, Agam, Nair, Patel, mine and Abdul Nisha, everyone's average, we understand that we all earn 15% return on an average. Some earn more, some earn less. But on an average, everyone else in this business on an average is getting a return of 15%. This 15% is called expected rate of return or normal rate of return. Whenever you enter into this business, you will know that in the market, the return expected in this business is 15%. Now, what was his investment?
1 lakh.
5 lakhs.
5 lakhs. What is 5 lakhs 15%? 75,000. So, with investment of 5 lakhs, on the basis of expected return, he should have been earning 75,000, but he is actually able to earn 1 lakh. Means it is efficiency of Arpan. It is his reputation because of which he is earning extra 25,000. How much more he is earning than what we are earning? 25,000. That is called as super profits. The profits which your business is able to earn over and above the other businesses of same category and with same level of investment is considered as super profits. So how to find this super profits? Okay, first we will find the return of everyone else, which is called normal profits. Okay, he is earning abnormal profits, but what are the normal profits which everyone else is earning? His investment, that means capital employed is how much? 5x into what is the normal rate of return everyone else is getting in the market? 15%. Means in his business, what should have been the normal profits? 5 lakhs into 15%? 75,000. Now, super profits are equal to, we'll be making two workings. One working of
Future maintainable.
average future maintainable profit, second working of, so capital employed will use here, and average future maintainable profits are our profits. Average future maintainable profits are our profits, which are coming to 1 lakh minus normal profits what everyone else would have earned with this investment is 75,000. So what are the super profits? 25,000. And then what would be the value of goodwill? Super profits into number of years purchase. Note down the formula. Did everyone understand this? So this is how we would find the goodwill. But first two workings between an average future maintainable profits and capital employed. Then we will apply these three steps. Did this? Now next we take up with capitalization of profits method. See here. Now from MCQ point of view, I will be making you write two formulas for this. Because in MCQ any of the situations may come. But in practical examples we'll use only one. capitalization of profits method. Now what is capitalization of profits method? Take same example what I explained you. Here what we do is, in capitalization of profits method, we find that what should have been Arpan's investment, capitalization of profit means to earn the profit, what should have been your capital. That's why you call it as capitalization of profits. From profit we find the capital. What are his profits? 1 lakh. What is everyone earning in the market? 15%. So, for earning 1 lakh at 15%, how much should he have invested to 1 lakh? Divide by 15 into 100.
6,66,000.
Means, to earn this 1 lakh, he should have actually invested 6 lakh, 66,667, and 15% of that will come to 1 lakh. Okay, but how much he has invested? 5 lakhs. Instead of 666,666, he has invested 5 lakhs and still able to get the same profits. So remaining is there in the business but not visible. He has invested 5 lakhs, but investment should be 6,66,000. Means remaining 1,66,667 is because of his reputation. That is capitalization of profits. Okay, what we do here is, first we do capitalization of profits. Okay, capitalization of profits means first we find value of firm. What would have been your value of firm? Average future maintainable profits, which are 1 lakh, divided by normal rate of return, which is 15%, into 100. This would be the value of your firm, means this should be your capital invested 666,666. From that you minus your capital employed. But you have invested only 5 lakhs. So remaining amount is your good. Did everyone understand this? Okay, or we'll be using the second formula of this. What was the super profit you obtained? 25,000. You are earning 1 lakh, normal profits are 75,000. What are the super profits you obtained? Do 25,000 divided by 15 into 100. Directly do you get the value of goodwill or not? So, other way of doing the same is directly super profits divided by normal rate of return into 100. You will directly get the value of goodwill. We'll be using this formula only because generally capitalization of profits method does not come alone. They'll ask you super profit also, capitalization of profit also, annuity also. So why to unnecessarily do 2 more steps when super profits are already calculated? Directly do the shortcut, super profit upon normal rate of return into. Yes, but in exams, MCQ point of view, they may give you the value of the firm. Okay, this value of firm is called capitalization of profits. Or they may mention this language also. And they may give you capital. In that situation, you will find goodwill. So concept both you understand, but we'll be using this formula to find goodwill. Okay, right now. Any confusion in this? So here also we need 2 workings, AFMP and capital. Written this? Any confusion in this method? And the last one is annuity method. Now understand what is annuity method. Be attentive. Annuity means, practically speaking, it is correct also. See, suppose we take 3 years purchase. Suppose we take
3 years.
means 3 years purchase means we expect that this profits will be able to maintain for the next 3 years. Or a new firm would take 3 years to reach to this position. Now tell me, if you receive 1 lakh today and if you receive 1 lakh after 1 year, are both equal for you? Which one is more preferable for you? Receiving 1 lakh today or after 1 year? today. Because after 1 year, should it be 1 lakh or more? If after 1 year you are getting it, then instead of 1 lakh, it should be, suppose you are earning 10% return, then it should be 1 lakh 10,000. Now, here what we are doing in number of years purchase, we are expecting that suppose super profits come to 25,000. Then we expect 25,000 will earn in current year, 25,000 will earn in second year, and 25,000 will earn in third year. This is not correct. If you are earning 25,000 in the current year, then in second year you should be earning more. Third year you should be still earning more. And if you are earning 25,000 in the second year, then its today's value is less. And if you are earning 25,000 in the third year, its today's value is again less. That factor is taken into consideration in annuity. Scientifically, they have derived with the rate of return, whatever is the normal rate of return, 15%. On that rate, if after 1 year you get 15,000, what should be its today's value? If after 2 years you get 15,000, what should be its today's value? That factor will be directly given to you. So you just have to apply the formula. I was just explaining the concept. But from your exam's point of view, you just have to apply the formula. Goodwill will be equal to super profits into present value interest factor of annuity, and this will be directly given in the question, and it will always be less than number of years. Means if number of years are 3, then this present value interest factor will be 2 point something. It will be less than 3 because you expect 15,000 to earn today, after 1 year, after 2 years. So therefore its today's value should always be less. If you are in 5 years purchase of super profits, then here you will take 5 years, but here the present value interest of annuity will be always less than 5. It will be 3 point something or 4 point. Did everyone understand this? But we have to apply simply this formula. Goodwill is equal to super profit. Concept is what? After 2-3 years, what profits you are going to receive, its today's value is less, which is taken into consideration by annuity. Okay, right now. Whenever I teach this chapter, I recollect my education days when I was in schooling and college life. Particularly, you are studying this all in SYBCom. And when did we study these topics? Yes? Actually, it should be vice versa. As the syllabus is upgrading, we should have studied in third year, fourth year BCom. Fourth year is not there, only if you feel that is there. But we studied this in 12th standard in the subject of mathematics. Business mathematics subject, and we used to apply direct method also, indirect method also. Means what you are studying in second year become more complicated than those questions, more points included in 12th standards mathematics. There was a whole chapter of that. Okay, it was called as valuation of shares, which you are going to study the next topic. So we directly studied valuation of shares, where goodwill was to be obtained first. So when you take the next chapter, you will understand it. This annuity Excel, you are directly given this factor. We had first chapter of mathematics on compound interest and annuity. More than 400-500 questions we used to practice at that time. And what table factor, this 2 point something is directly given to you. We used to obtain that using the logarithm tables. Calculators were also not around. So that we used to obtain through logarithm tables. So if these factors are directly given to you, basically I can, if time is there, also explain you how that value is obtained. If 3 years it is given 2.73, then I am capable to explain you how that 2.73 is obtained. Okay? After your midterm and exams. So, all of you have written these formulas?
Yes, sir.
Question 5. Abhishek sir has not come yet. So, let's take up. No problem, we'll take it up tomorrow. Methods all are done, capital employed is understood. Now, company final accounts, I am not going to take it further because from mid-sem point of view, you are going to have MCQs only. So, whatever long questions are remaining, we can practice them even after the mid-sem exams. Right, we'll finish with this valuation of goodwill and shares, and MCQs we have to basically do in the class. So company final accounts, whatever is remaining after midterm exams. Long questions, only 1 or 2 are remaining. That concepts are all covered in the class. Right? Tomorrow morning, we'll take up with this valuation of shares, goodwill questions, and evening we are going to have the classes.